it's tough. I mean, it's really like you're producing a show, and if you want to
Yeah.
do it right, you have to write stuff out, script it out, make sure it looks good, edit it, and it's like basically a full-time job. And I'm trying to do this like as it's supposed to be like passive fun kind of
Yeah.
content, not like real hard work, and it turns into like it's easy to get started. And it's like that's what's interesting about the whole content game is it's surprisingly like you can get really solid, tangible results and build an audience really fast with very little work. But to get like, above levels one and two, then it gets harder where it's like, okay, well now I'm monetized. I need to actually like keep consistently and like grow and actually have good content, not just like bare minimum. But
Yeah. It's like from 0 to 1, great, and then from 1 to infinity. How
Yeah,
like
exactly. From 0 to 1 is awesome. And it's so easy. It's like the barrier to entry. It's just like anything else now, where it's like you can create music with GarageBand. You can make movies on your iPhone. It's the barrier to entry is so low that you feel like you're playing the big game so easily. And then all of a sudden, when you're actually trying to compete, like I am with real top level players, you're like, oh, I actually am at the less than high school level of abilities here.
oh man, I
Well,
feel like being authentic is key. Granted, I have no idea. Like I said, I haven't even started yet. But yeah, I feel like it's always good to be authentic, and then, however you want to put the vibe to your show and whatnot. And then like, yeah, I think probably being consistent is the key. And I don't think it necessarily needs to be like every day. You just probably got to be consistent in terms of having a set time you do it, whether it's once a week or once a month. So I'm trying to figure out stuff like that and then kind of come up with a plan and what type of content. But we'll see because I'm more focused on obviously the business part, which is kind of why we're here. But definitely, nowadays, whether you're starting a business, have a brand, just trying to sell products, flip products, you need to kind of be an influencer of some sort and put out content. And so like, it doesn't matter whether you're a big company or you're just starting. It seems pretty important nowadays. And I think nowadays consumers and people just want to connect with the person behind the company or brand or whatever it may be. And so I think it's very important. And so I'm trying to kind of figure that out essentially.
that is what I noticed from my own self is like me as a consumer of content, especially I'm someone that consumes content of other people of like how to, you know, I guess like make money or make a business out of doing the creative work that I'm doing. How do you actually make a living writing movies and writing comic books and things like that, or even just starting a small business or whatever? And I like to watch people that it's not like now you could say AI, but just before even AI was a thing, people a lot of people created channels that didn't have a personality. There was no
Yeah.
authenticity. You were just watching sort of stock footage with someone talking over it. And it's like, I do like to watch a person just talk and explain things. And it does help if they put on the screen bullet points or something like that, or edit it to where it's concise and stuff. But that's kind of where I'm at, where it's like, I consume, so that's what I create is just sort of long form talking of people doing what it is that I want to get into. And before I'm doing what I am now, I watch YouTube videos to figure out and watch other people like, how did you sell your comic books and stuff like that. So, well, let's back up and just fill me in on who you are and what made you are now to where the company you're starting, and then we'll go dive into all the questions I have about that and how it relates to me and everything else. So, what's your name and all that?
Cool, cool. Yeah, so I'm Amir Bahari. I guess I'll kind of give a little professional background real quick. I'm from Austin. I went to the University of Texas at Austin. I studied economics. I actually had a little stint as a venture capitalist, worked for a small firm here in Austin. And then I started a business, did my own thing. And we went on for like 6 or 7 years. Actually semi-successful, raised 4 or 5 million in venture capital, and became Forbes 30 under 30, grew that business. We were in like it was a food and beverage product, and we were in retailers like 7-Eleven, Gold's Gym, GNC, Vitamin Shop. Exited that business after 6 or 7 years, and then kind of hung out, invested for a little bit. Obviously, I was a comic guy, so was obviously reading comics, watching anime, things like that, and it's kind of how I got into it. I'll get into that in a second. Then I did tech sales for a little bit. And then I was like, I got kind of bit by the entrepreneurial bug. And so that's kind of what led me here to PanelFly. And that's kind of what I'm doing. I don't know if you have anything there. Happy to fill in any gaps, or I can just kind of keep going.
But no, yeah, I mean, I could comment on all kinds of stuff about the whole entrepreneurial aspect of it. Well done on all that. But
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
yeah, fill me in on what is PanelFly. It's not live yet. I'm guessing you are going live soon, though. Just fill us all in.
Yes, so I've recently started a company called PanelFly, panelfly.io. And so essentially, it's an online marketplace connecting publishers and really brands in the collectible industry to retailers. Eventually, we want to go into more industries than that and get more retailers than like comic book shops and things like that. But right now, that's kind of what we're focusing on. We have a niche, and honestly, it's just a passion of mine. I've always been into anime and cartoons and things like that. And that's kind of what got me into comics actually a little bit later in life. And then I fell in love with comics. And so then I kind of combined these passions. And, I actually wanted to also do a comic. And when I was trying to figure things out, I'm actually still working on it. I just hired an artist and I have an editor. Actually, my editor is Steve Stern, he's done the, gosh, what's it called? A Zen Intergalactic Ninja. It was like a pretty big comic in like the late 90s and early 2000s. I think he sold like over 4 million copies. So Steve Stern's my editor, and then I recently hired an artist, Jim Fern, he was a artist for and a penciler for like Marvel and DC's published artists, things like that. And then when I was kind of just looking into the business side, because it was like, okay, great, I wrote my comic, or it's really graphic novel to be specific. So looking into the business side, I was like, okay, how am I going to get this published? What am I going to do? Already thinking about those things, and I just hired the artist, but I already thinking about those things, and obviously, been into comics. I read comics. I got a collection, so I'm very familiar with the distribution game in general from having a business and in the comic industry. Um, and was just kind of looking at it and was just like, hey, this is broken. Like, hey, this is too complex. This is too primitive. And besides when Lunar and Penguin came in, and during COVID era a little bit after, it was just Diamond pretty much. You obviously had Simon and Schuster, but it was pretty much just Diamond, and they had a monopoly. And usually, when there's a monopoly, it means either the industry is too small, or there's kind of something going on with contracts, exclusivity, and things like that. And then obviously when Diamond and Lunar came in, that kind of shook up the game. Obviously when Lunar and Penguin came in, obviously Diamond went bankrupt, but honestly their model just made no sense. I mean, they were literally fronting the retailers money, which is not how distribution works. You were supposed to How real distribution works is you pay for the product up front, the distributor, and then you sell it to the retailer and you collect that money up front, or you do payment terms of no more max than 90-day payment terms. But for smaller margin businesses like comics or food and beverage, you really want like 30-day payment terms, 60-day payment terms. But they were just fronting retailers, and they were never collecting the cash. They had no analytics or ordering system, and it was just like super primitive. And so they got to this point where they were like $33 million in debt, and it was insane. And so entering PanelFly, we were just like, hey, forget the primitive model, forget this complexity and all this. Like, just pay the publishers up front, and then you get your order and you sell it. And that's what we're trying to do is just get rid of all this mess, all the BS, all the complex, the complexness of the industry. And we're just trying to simplify it, and we're trying to, you know, have publishers and have a higher margin on their product essentially. And so that's kind of what we're doing, and I'll kind of go into the platform here in a little bit. But yeah, so essentially that's kind of the gist of PanelFly. And it really stemmed from, the distribution model just made no sense, really.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of want to dive into more of the actual more details of all this stuff because especially for us in independent comics, getting into this, we don't really know the whole supply chain of how this all works. And I'll try to like sum up what I know, and you try to fill in the gaps that I'm either missing or I'm wrong on. So it's like if you are there's like different parts, I guess. So there's the comic book shops. So like as of nowadays, it's different from newsstands or whatever. Most of the way that people consume comic books is they go to local collectible stores. Like in my area, there's actual comic shops that have names. And then there's some that are like slackers that also sort of have comic shops, or there's games stores that also sell comics. So like basically, there's stores that specialize in collectibles, cards, comics. That is separate from bookstores. So those shops are, if they wanted to get your independent book, the way that that had to happen was you as a creator had to somehow be signed with a publisher that had a relationship with the distributor that distributed to those comic shops, because the comic shops, the main way that they purchased books was through a catalog that was like a physical magazine, or it was also available online that they would search about 3 months before a book would come out, the new books that were coming out in the next quarter or so or whatever. And they would then preview that catalog and then order what they wanted. And they based their orders upon whatever the shop owners thought looked interesting, what they consumed on YouTube that seemed to be a big deal, or primarily through pre-orders of people with pull lists that come to their comic shop that say, give me everything from Marvel that's, a certain title, or a certain character. Or if it's independent comics, they'd be like, I want anything that's related to sci-fi or whatever from Image and I don't know, Vault or whatever. And so it'd basically be like if you're the comic shop owner, like you had to go through this previews catalog. If you wanted anything outside the Diamond or now Lunar, it was like literally just people calling you, and they would have to figure out on their own end. They'd be like making their own terms of it being like a local author that would be like, I'd drop off the book, or some kind of private publisher that would have a relationship with local publishers because they wouldn't ship, further outside of their city because it just would cost too much. Um, so now, bring me up to speed from like what about that model failed so hard, and that's so many people like that led to the, like you kind of briefly explained it, but do you know anything more about like why was that so blocky? Like, and why was it so, and I guess what is it that you're doing that makes it so much better for us going forward, for everyone involved?
Yeah, no, I mean, you're exactly right. And I wouldn't say that model was necessarily like broken or bad. I mean, the biggest reason why that model is a thing, and it's obviously a little different in this industry than, say, something like food and beverage, but the reason why that model was really even a thing is simply because comics are collectibles, and so you kind of want to do print runs. And so that's really the reason why that model is a thing, because when you're doing your first run, that's going to be the most valuable run, obviously. And so you want to collect pre-orders, and you want to obviously print as much as you can so you can sell it in that first run, but you also want it to be kind of limited, which makes sense because comics is a collectible, and that's totally fine. But I think again, really where the issue came about was honestly Diamond's monetization model and just Diamond's way of doing business. And I think, if Diamond just treated distribution like any other industry did, I think it would have been fine. And what we would be doing is just complementing the business. But now what we're doing is actually disrupting distribution in comics. Because and that's one thing we're probably gonna add to the platform, and I'll show you the platform here in 1 second. But we're probably gonna add like a pre-order listing because right now Simply just put up your listings and you have inventory for it and then you sell it right away. But we're probably going to add a pre-order listing talking to some retailers and other publishers. They want to do that, especially for ones that are going through like Kickstarter, Fund My Comic, or Indiegogo, any of these platforms, BackerKit. They want to put their listings beforehand. And we actually have one listing that's actually on our platform, but it's not available yet for sale. But yeah, I think, it's not necessarily the model that was broken. It's necessarily how Diamond operated, and it just made no sense. I mean, they literally accrued $33 million in debt simply by not collecting the
I don't
money.
understand. Explain how are they fronting the retailers? They were literally just giving them books for free and said, "Pay me when you sell them."
So in especially in the publication industry, there's two ways of doing business. So there's like a firm sale model and there's a consignment model. And obviously, the smaller publishers are more likely going to do the consignment model. And I mean, it just depends what you wanted to do and what your contracts look like. And so it really depend on a case by case basis. But obviously, in a consignment model, the publisher would either go to the retailers and say, hey, this is how many orders I'm going to get, or obviously, previews, this is how many orders I got. Or they would go to Diamond directly and they'd be like, hey, take my books, get them to retailers, or hey, I have these many orders through previews or retailers. I want you to take these books. I want you to take them to the retailer, and then when the retailer sells them, then Diamond will invoice them, and there'll still probably be payment terms on that. And then Diamond will pay the publisher for whatever the retailer sold, and then whatever so retailers have what's called planograms, and they reset their stores or they reset their catalogs or they reset their shelves, every quarter, every 6 months, or every year. And so when they do that, if they didn't sell enough of the product, then or they didn't sell all the product, they would take whatever's back, and then the retailer would either have to just ship it back and pay for the shipping, or the publisher would have to do what's called a buyback, and they would actually buy back the product that didn't sell. So it's one of the two. And then
Okay.
you have the firm sell model, which is just traditional. Distributor, retailer buys it straight up. So there's the firm sell model and consignment model. And so, it's really a case by case basis. Consignment model makes sense for indie publishers because if you're the retailer, it's like, hey, I don't know you. I don't know if your product's going to sell. Like, why am I going to take the risk? Sure, I'll take the risk. All I'm pretty much, worried about is real estate on my shelf. I'll take that risk, especially if there's a buyback clause in the contract. Then it's no risk to the retailer except real estate on their shelf. And so, a lot of indie publishers, small press, they'll do the consignment model. And it's something we might even play with. Like if a publisher wants to just to offer that to the retailer, we might offer that. But we really want to say, hey, you as the retailer need to own up. You want this product and pay for it. And so that's what we're trying to do and do more of that firm sale model. But we might offer that down the road, but right now we don't offer that. And so yeah, that's kind of how it's traditionally worked as those two business models.
Gotcha. Yeah. See, I didn't realize that comic shops and Diamond did the consignment and buyback aspect. I thought that was like sort of exclusive to bookstores because, and that was sort of the difference whenever, um, like the worry I had whenever my books went to bookstores was, yeah, you had that thing to where it was like, if you don't sell them, like you basically, it's not just like, oh, they're on the shelves and like it's done, you still made your money. With Diamond, it was like that. If a comic shop ordered 10 issues of your book and they only sold one, they ate the cost of the other nine that they bought.
Yeah,
Whereas
that's
with the buyback system, it's like you end up eating that cost or just not getting that money for it. And since you paid for the printing and shipping and stuff, it's basically like you could be at a loss. Um,
exactly.
so
And
yeah, it's a tough model for like no matter where how you go about it. It's just like I've always argued in this industry is like it's just unless you are a real breakout hit, there's no real success run. Because you're in like the sort of collectibles and things are on like a print run basis, it's like you have to hit the first barrier that then like knocks down the dominoes to go further to really start seeing any real profits. It's like until then, you're basically just it's all just marketing costs to like to pay to get it out there, get it produced, get it out there, try to get it in front of eyeballs. And unless a lot of people consume it, it's same with movies and theaters and things like that. Like they pay to have it made, and then they pay a huge marketing fee to get it into theaters and to advertise it, and they have to just bet that that marketing plan is going to work and they're going to get millions of people that actually come in and either download or into theaters or whatever see that movie. It's pretty much the same with comics, and 9 out of 10 of us are not the hits, because people are they're the main things they're consuming are the mainstream top level titles, you
Right.
know. And then on top of that, the really big hits for them that matter are like the weird, not necessarily weird, but just exclusive, limited, unusual kind of storylines or whatever that are combining characters
Yeah.
and first appearances and things like that. So if you as like your own little individual story, it's like to really break out is it's a really tough thing to do.
Yeah,
But
and it's yeah.
the key thing is always just how do I get into shops? And it's like
Yeah.
you're solving that problem. So that comes to me like 100% of my audience is basically in my same shoes to where and like for like right now, I'll probably post this video next week, but it's basically like I have a book that I'm about to publish on Kickstarter through my own just self-labeled publishing imprint, like I'm my own publisher. That's what most of us do. Is basically you create a book and then you throw it on like a crowdfunding platform, self-publish it, self-release it. Now, so are you going to be exclusive at all to where like what will be my barrier to entry to get my book onto your platform to then have it available to whatever distributors are on your platform as well? Like, is it really just being able to meet the technical specs, or will you have some kind of like I don't know what it might be, but some other kind of factors that might limit out people that to get on there. Like, do you have to for sure have a completed product, or like, or what is it?
Yeah, that's a good point. So right now, we are an early stage startup. I mean, we're doing our soft launch this month. We just did our soft launch last week, and so we're focusing on onboarding publishers right now, kind of getting the supply side since it's a marketplace. And then we'll do our hard launch most likely next month where we start onboarding retailers. And we're gonna launch with a press release from Publishers Weekly, and it'll kind of explain everything. But to answer your question, yes. So right now, literally you have to have a finished comic book and you have to have inventory. And it's an open marketplace. It's not like a managed marketplace where you have to vet you or anything. You have to be a business. You have to have an EIN, things like that. Um, Down the line, there is a potential for that, for various reasons, but we don't know for sure. I can't give you a hard answer. And one thing we definitely want to do though, like I just mentioned earlier, is we will add pre-order listings. So I've already been talking to smaller press or indie publishers, self-publishers on platforms like Kickstarter, Fund My Comic, things like that. And they want to get on the platform right now. And we do have one publisher on the platform. He's doing I think it's on Fund My Comic. And right now it's just basically you can't order it. He put like there's no inventory. I'll show y'all here in a bit, but
Okay, okay.
basically, yeah, so we're gonna definitely add pre-order listings. So even if you're doing crowdfunding, you can still get on our platform. You'll get pre-orders, so it'll be kind of like previews. Honestly, it's like a mini version of that. So you'll start getting pre-orders, and then B will also link your crowdfunding platform so you can also get funded. And so that's what we're doing. We're actually working on a partnership with Fund My Comic right now. I'm trying to figure out how we're actually going to do the logistics on the back end. But we're working on that. And so that's kind of the things we want to do. But yeah, to answer your question, right now it's an open marketplace. If you have comics and you have some inventory and they're finished, I invite you to get on the platform, make a listing. You can always email me at at panelfly.io and I can walk you through it. But yeah, completely open. If you have inventory, you're good to go. Down the line, we might like be a little bit more of a managed marketplace. But we'll see. Like I said, can't give you a hard answer on that.
I gotcha. Um, I guess like what would be sort of your advantage or from the retailer's perspective? Well, if right now their options are basically Lunar and Penguin, and then anything outside of that, or like what is your edge? Like from their perspective, like what is it about Panelfly that'll make things like that'll be like what like is there if there is a path to where Panelfly leads the distribution space and like takes over and becomes the new diamond monopoly of distribution in comics, like what is your edge that you have that's like the competitive advantage or whatever?
So I think a few things. A, I mean, it's simple. You don't have to worry about, again, all the complex, primitive, anything, and a lot of issues of the model currently, and a lot of issues also stem from shipping. If publishers control their shipping, they're going to manage that quality to a T. Where Diamond doesn't care, and that's a huge issue, and that leaves retailers with inventory they can't sell or they got to wait a month to get new issues to replace those. And so, I think those are two reasons. But on top of that, one thing we can do for them right now is we can consolidate their ordering process with the publishers and brands they're already working with that aren't in distribution. So talking to retailers, a big value prop for them is local publishers and local brands. They're willing to sell that even if they don't necessarily like the product. And so, like I was talking to a retailer the other day. I mean, he said he orders literally from like 50 brands and publishers that aren't in distribution, and he has to manage those relationships one-on-one. So managing 50 email threads or managing multiple calls, and then he just cuts them a check. And it's like we can consolidate that process for the retailer. And on top of that, we're giving you an access to a catalog of all the indie publishers, all the self-publishers, and especially local ones in your area. So when we see a listing here in a bit, you'll see we'll have their city and state, and that's very important to the retailers. Um, and another thing is, right now, five maybe 5 to 10% of the comic shop's inventory total, whether it's comic books or figures or what have you, it's indie stuff. And what's happening right now is a shift. I think indie creators, indie products, they're making the best content, they're making the best product, they have the best quality. But retailers don't necessarily have access to all that. And maybe they have access to some or they know of a few. They don't know about all of them. And on top of that, it's too hard of a process to work with that I just mentioned. So if those indie comics, if those indie brands were in a distributor today, the point where PanelFly is trying to make is probably 20, maybe 30% of the retailer's inventory would be more smaller brands, local publishers, small press, because they're better stories, better content, better quality. But they just don't have access to that. And even if they did, the process is too mundane to manage it. They just want to go on, maybe three websites, Lunar, PRH, and Diamond, and they just want to order everything, and they don't want to take a day or three to order inventory. They want to do it within a few hours. And so what we're going to do is aggregate all that, be the ordering system, and consolidate all that for them right now. And so it makes it easier.
Yeah, awesome. Makes sense. So what about on the other end? So like me as a publisher, will I have the ability to sort of advertise or with previews in Diamond you could pay to put yourself on the cover of the catalog and things like that. Will you have an option to where I somehow can sort of I don't know, put myself on the front page or whatever it is to sort of like make myself more noticed or anything like that? Or do you have an option or do you plan on anything like that?
Absolutely, yeah. We definitely plan on that. Definitely everyone out there and Max, bear with us. We definitely are an early stage startup,
I
just
know,
like
I'm sorry.
no, no, no. But yes, so we have a huge vision. I mean, we have 1 year vision, 5 year vision, 10-year vision, which encompasses a lot more than probably people can think of. of what we want to do. But yes, we will have things like, again, the pre-order listings. We will definitely have advertising. We'll right now we don't, but we will have like chats between retailers and publishers, and they can chat and figure out logistical things, or if you want to send them marketing materials and promos, things like that. And then yes, we will also have advertising, front page, front cover, first listing, things like that. And another thing we will have is essentially a rating and comment system. So it'll be like, oh, 5 stars, oh, bestseller, and then comments, oh, this sells out for me. Oh, this is a great story. This is a great product. So we're gonna have like almost like a social media aspect, if you will. Not necessarily, but it'll be more like a Yelp style in the platform. It'll be comments, ratings, reviews, things like that. So we're gonna do all that, and again, we have a lot more planned. But yeah, definitely starting off with more of a fundamental product that gets the job done, and then once we start onboarding more publishers, more retailers, start getting more transactions, then we have the ability to go in whatever direction we want. And honestly, that direction is just going to be listening to our customers. But we do also have a vision as well. So yes, we will do all that.
Nice. Yeah, I don't mean to be like jumping straight to be like the once this so I know you're like you haven't even started yet. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
but I just it's this is one of the few things I know a lot about that I have like I you have a product that helps me, It's not often that I talk to people that it's just like, "Oh, I can almost help mold this thing," or like you can solve
yeah,
my problems.
exactly.
To get even more into the weeds, you said so the publishers will handle their own shipping and warehousing and stuff like that. So how did it or does it work for some of the bigger publishers? Let's say like Image, or not even necessarily a specific publisher. You may not know the specifics or want to share the details, but like, does the publisher or like how much did Diamond have over operating shipping and warehousing? Like if a
Yeah.
publisher like let's just say they have a printer that they know prints their books. Like let's just say like in my example with like my Scout Comics book, it was like the first print one, I'm pretty sure was printed in Florida and with a local printer of that publisher.
Mhm.
Um, so then what happened from there? And how does it sort of happen now? Like does the publisher then send
Yeah.
it to Diamond and how or to their warehouse or like how does it get from the
Mhm.
printer to the stores and how much did the does distributor have to do with all that? Or how much of that is the publisher handling that or whatever?
Yeah. So with bigger publishers, the way it usually works is one of two ways. Um, so the product will go straight from printing press, palletized, all that, straight to Diamond's warehouse. Or if the publisher does have a warehouse and they want to add on things or do certain things or whatever it may be, and then from printing press, palletized, it'll go to the publisher's warehouse, and then it'll go to Diamond, palletize, things like that. And then Diamond will, when they start getting orders or whatever, they'll break the pallet down, split it up, put it into cases, and then send it off to the store, things like that. So that's kind of how it works with bigger publishers. But with smaller publishers, like small press, things like that, and I'm sure you probably know, especially in today's day and age of the internet, websites, direct to consumer, e-commerce. Um, Even smaller press, they're already doing their own fulfillment, whether they might have a mini warehouse, they might just do it in their house or garage, or even work with a 3PL, which is a 3PL, which is a third party logistics. If you're, not big enough to be a big publisher, but if you're outgrowing your house, you're gonna have what's called a 3PL, and then they'll pick and pack the product for you, and they'll ship it for you. So it works that way, but smaller presses are already doing this. They're already, they have a website. They're already, or they just have a Kickstarter, but they're shipping product. So they're literally packing it, putting shipping labels on it, and then shipping out to the consumer. And that's another thing that, that's changing in the industry. It's like, and we're just kind of taking advantage of that. We're saying, hey, I mean, from small press to big press, like they're already doing this. They're already doing their own fulfillment. So why not just take advantage of that? And what that does too is we can take less of a fee. And we technically we don't charge anyone, we just take a transaction fee. So we're not charging the publisher, we're not charging the retailer, we're just taking a transaction fee, which does come out of the publisher's um, order. So you do have to factor that in when you go on the platform. It's 5% fee. But we're able to do that rather than take, anywhere from 20 to 40% like Diamond, because Diamond has a warehouse. They're shipping your product for you, where we're not doing that. So you have a higher margin and you control your margin. But that's typically how it works on the back end with bigger publishers all the way down to small press, that way.
That makes sense. Yeah, that works out a lot better. I feel like on our end because yeah, you're not having to ta get charged for them that warehousing fee or whatever they added into their pricing model or whatever.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
Dang, I think if you want to just show whatever you have the you wanted to display, I'll take a look
Cool.
at that. Oh,
Yeah, so that's what we're doing, guys. This is PanelFly. We're connecting comic publishers and brands with retailers. The idea right now, we're definitely starting with self-publishers, indie press. We'll take anyone, but the idea eventually is even work with major publishers. And right now, we're starting off here with local retailers, but we want to work with everyone. So as we grow, we want to work with online retailers and we want to work with big box retailers. And so not only are we trying to disrupt the current model. We want to grow the industry by working with big box and not just get, oh, like dynamite licensing material. I make a Lilo and Stitch book, so of course Walmart's going to want it. Like we're going to get your comic into big box. And so that's what we're trying to do here. Obviously, you can join as a publisher, you can join as a retailer. And this is kind of some of the features invite y'all to check out the website. If you are a publisher or a retailer, please make a listing, sign up on the website. Again, email me at amir@panelfly.io, and I can help onboard you. Not going to go through everything, but again, this is what we do for publishers and brands. This is what we do for retailers. It's a very streamlined process, simple, transparent. So we just take a 5% transaction fee of the order, but that obviously does come out of the publisher because the retailer is paying for it, but the publisher is getting the order and we take 5% of that. So yeah, I invite y'all to check it out. And then from here, we can kind of go into the actual platform itself. So this is kind of what it looks like. Are you still able to see this?
yeah, yeah, looks great.
Cool, cool. So this is essentially what a listing will look like. You can do anything from graphic novels, posters, limited editions, floppies, products. You can do figures, like everything you see here on the side, everything you see here up top. And so this is what it'll kind of look like. Right now we have about three pages of listings, but if we look in, let's go to Wiseacre Comics, for example, we can kind of take a look. So you get the title, you'll have a publisher page as well. So right now this is a product listing, and then you have a publisher page as well. So you have a description of obviously what the book is. You got all this good stuff right here. This is the other products and titles he has on the platform. So this is kind of what he has right here. So right now, obviously, this is wholesale. We are not a direct consumer site. We are a B2B. So we're kind of the back end of that. It's connecting publishers to retailers, and this is wholesale. So right now he has one pack, should probably be called more. So one case. One case comes with 16 of these hardcover editions, and he's wanting to sell it for $599 dollars. So, you can, again, you make your margin. I mean, you make your price, you get your margin, you do what you want. We don't control that. And so then he's out of Goodyear, Arizona. So Goodyear comic book shops, Arizona comic book shops are going to be really interested in this guy. And this is kind of the publisher page. You can go visit his website. And this is kind of a little bit about him. And then kind of, oops, what did I do? And then same thing for the others. So this guy, Titan Mouse of Might. And it's kind of the same thing. You can do multiple. So he wanted to do one copy to basically almost like a sampler, if you will. So you can just order one, see if you like it. And we'll probably have like a QR code and you can probably, read a couple pages so you can check it out online as a retailer. We're not there yet again. Definitely have a lot of features to launch, but so you can have multiple pricing tiers as a publisher. So he has one copy, and then for his wholesale, he has 10 copies in one case, and he's charging 174.99. And that's kind of what it looks like. He has a lot of listings, and then we do have, like I said, another listing right now. I don't know where it's at. That he's doing a Kickstarter, so we're gonna do so right now he has out of stock. We're gonna have a pre-order listing. So this would actually be a pre-order listing. And so that's what this would kind of look like, and it would just say pre-order. So these are some of the things we're trying to work on. But overall, this is the platform. And then I'll kind of real quick, last thing I'll do here is just take you to what it looks like if you wanted to make a listing, right? So this is the publisher dashboard on the back end. You have your profile settings where you make your account. And this is, we do Stripe. Stripe is our financial platform. So you will have to make a Stripe account. And then you can create a listing here, and it'll basically show you your shipments, your orders, the revenue you're making, essentially, and then it'll kind of have some analytics. We'll have more analytics as we go, and then you kind of make your listing here. So this is my page, for example. So this is just an example. You can duplicate a listing, you can archive a listing, you can delete a listing. And then so if I wanted to, I've already made a listing, I could take you through the create a listing process. You put your title, you put your description, you put your cover image file. We don't want pictures of the comic. We want the cover art file. And if you want to do interiors, you can, but make it a file, PNG, or whatever file you want. You put what type it is, like maybe you just have a print, or maybe you have some type of collectible, manga, your release date, the rating, what language it is, ISBN, ISSN, UPC. Then this is where you can have tier pricing. So if I wanted to do like, you know, one one unit or whatever, then so this will be how many units you have in a case. So if I want to sell 10 comics in one case and I want to do it so this pricing here is going to be for the case. This pricing isn't going to be per each comic. This is going to be for 10 comics total for the whole case. So if you want to charge $5 per floppy, whatever it is, and it's 10, you're gonna put $50. And if you want, you can do shipping or you can factor shipping into the wholesale price. And right now you can do in stock, out of stock. And then if you want, you can add a variant. We'll probably need to come up with a new name for that. And you can be like, hey, so sorry, let's make that 10. You can be like, hey, I want a 30. I'm just putting units. We can name it whatever you want to do it. Let's just say 30 units for example. So this is going to come with 30, and then it would be 5 times 30. Can't think of what that is, but you know what I'm saying? What is that,
Yeah,
150?
yeah, 150, I think.
Yeah. And so that's what it would look like. And then you can, again, charge shipping, factor that on the wholesale price. So you can have different tiers of pricing for one listing. And again, if it's a like let's say this is one title, but you have multiple issues in a title, I could save that product. I'm not going to save it right now. But let's say that was issue one of one title. You can duplicate the listing here with this button and then change it to issue two and change the description. And so this is kind of what it looks like. But this is the back end, and then obviously this is the front end. You make that, and then this is what it'll look like and click in it. And so that's kind of, the platform in a nutshell. And so this is what we're trying to do at PanelFly is disrupt the current industry, but also disrupt the current way distribution is done in the industry, but also grow the industry. And so this is kind of our goal, and this is what we're doing, guys.
Uh,
So yeah, I invite
I,
you
I
to,
I am excited about this.
yeah, man.
Like,
I, I'm
I
I'm
think
excited as well.
this is really a game changer because there are literally probably, I mean, you know the numbers probably. There's 4,000 independent comic titles
Oh yeah.
released on Kickstarter and Indiegogo on any given year. They're and every single one of those people want distribution. in comic shops. You know, they don't want to just sell one unit at a time on their Kickstarter. We need to sell 10 at a time to shops, like, and even if you only have four shops that accept you, like that's enough. So I feel like this is just truly bringing value to what this industry needs because it's almost like the independents are really rising in I gotta know market share or whatever. But
Yeah.
another thing I was gonna note was yeah, I have a lot of people that I work with that are, I go to conventions and stuff, and they make zines. Like they physically just like make, like draw, print it themselves on their own like photocopier and stuff, make very artistic zines. And they've always asked me like, where is it even possible to sort of like sell these wholesale? And I was like, I now it sounds like there is like because you create the product and you create your numbers and it's like you just upload it to this and it's like it doesn't necessarily increase uh like the retailers might not necessarily buy it, but it's like it's at least available to them. And so
Right.
it's just like we can focus then on getting retailers to buy it, but it's like just making it easy and available for the retailers. I feel like it's just like the biggest hurdle we've had to go through. Because you can't call, there's literally 2,000 comic shops or something in the United States. You can't call or email all of them, uh, and try to
Exactly.
set up your own individual plan or whatever to sell them.
Yeah, and a lot of creators, they just want to create. They don't want to do the business
Oh
part.
yeah, that
And
aside from that point, that yeah, most people don't even know to try to take those steps. You just make your
yeah,
stuff, and yeah, that's what we ultimately want to do. But this is
exactly.
as easy. It looks like it's easier to do this than create a Facebook page, Like
That's
it's
what we try to
truly like
do.
there's no real you have your covers. It's like as long as you have your ducks in order. And that's what's funny is I'm working with another person that's working on another product that he's trying to solve the other end where it's like if I'm a person that has a bunch of stuff. How do I consolidate all my own information about my own comics and my own uh, all the images of all my
Yeah.
covers, all the podcasts I've ever been on, all the everything I've ever done, all the solicitation of information for everything, every issue, every trade paperback. And and how do
Yeah,
I
that's smart.
consolidate that and make it easy so that whenever I want to now upload a new product to a PanelFly, I just copy and paste. you know?
Yeah, and honestly, what we want to work on because we've been talking with bigger publishers, and you mentioned Vault. Vault is one of the publishers we're talking to, and we're talking to another one even bigger. He's in the UK, so we're trying to figure it out. Um, but that's been an issue. He's like, "Look, I'm not, I don't want to upload all these listings, so we're working on the back end to do like a CSV drop, and you put all the just everything we ask for." On that listing I just showed you in the back end. You put everything in the CSV and then you just upload it and then it'll make it for you. But that's actually
Whoa.
really cool what you just said because we could integrate with that platform, that company, and then we could just automatically upload all
Oh,
your listings.
I'll put you in contact with them.
Yeah, definitely. Because that's actually really great. And honestly, we could partner together and help each other grow because literally, I mean, we would just be like, hey, if you're a publisher, with more than 50 titles and you don't want to do all this work, well, go get on your buddy's platform and then we'll just integrate with them and then we'll just upload it for you automatically integrating through their API,
Yeah,
whatever it is.
I mean that sounds perfect. Like not just from my own personal perspective, but like as a creator and a publisher, like all those things are the hard part. Like even if you're just like you said, us creators, we just want to create. And then you get bogged down by I only have three titles, but each one of those three titles, it's like one has 10 issues that had, you know, multiple covers for each issue. There's over 50 covers just for one series I have.
Exactly.
There's different log lines, synopsises for every single individual issue there is. I went on to different podcasts for every single thing I promoted. That was just for like one series. Uh, and then I have two others, and it's like all that gets lost on your computer, or who knows? You're like, you forget who you talked to about this thing, but it's like if it somehow was just like almost like a social media profile for a creator and a publisher. And then it's like you combine that to where it's like you can easily just like zoop it over to where it's now available for people to
Yep.
buy at a wholesale price. Yeah, it seems like a dream come true.
And that's what we're trying to be. There's no reason why it shouldn't be a dream come true. Um,
Yeah, yeah, you're right.
you know what I mean? Like we have the tech nowadays. We're in 2025. Like
Yeah, it
why?
seems everything was like the way we do everything from like how we promote has been based upon this model that was based upon like it sounds like what you're saying where it's just like not necessarily broken or bad but it's just not up to the date or any similar to the way anything else is distributed as well like there is a collectible aspect to it that I never really thought about like that's why you kind of like highlight print runs and exclusivity or whatever like that but it
Yeah,
seems like that shouldn't make it harder for
correct.
everybody involved just because it's like anyway.
And,
Um,
and that's why we want to do those pre-order listings because this industry is a little bit different and it's collectibles. But yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. Exactly.
I don't really have after seeing what you showed, it's like, man, I don't have any questions. I just want to like get
Sweet.
this going and see it in action or whatever. But
Yep.
um, in relation to like your old um role, I'm just wondering. I know when you have a company and like it has its success and you're like sort of pivoting to like find the new thing. It's the same with us creators where like I as you're finishing one series, you're like starting to think about like what's going to be the next one. And you have a lot
Right.
of ideas and you have a lot that goes down on paper, but like pulling the trigger on like what's the next thing I'm going to invest my time and money in for for multiple graphic novels, like that's a multi-year plan. Just like now it's like you're now building a company that's like you're it's a startup that, the 2 to 3 year plan is still just the beginning phase of a very long thing. How
Correct.
much of this was like already like in the cards of the next business venture you wanted to take as opposed to like how much of this was like the crumbling of like Diamond and everything else where you're just like there's blood in the water, I'm striking now. Like was you already had this before any of that blew up or did you really kind of strategically plan this in relation to any of that?
It's funny that you say that because my first business was actually strategically planned, but I did have a passion for it. It was a product I really enjoyed, but it was more of a business, and after 6 or 7 years, I just kind of got checked out, and so that's what I kind of. I actually wasn't going to attempt another business until like honestly later in life, but then when I saw okay, yeah, so it did come more so market timing. So when I saw Diamond go bankrupt, honestly, like the day they announced that is honestly like the day I came up with the idea, and I was like, I'm going for it. I'm passionate about this. It can be fun for me, because ultimately, like I want to be a creator too, and I want to have fun with my project, just like creators do with their comic or graphic novel. Granted, this is a business, and I've done it before, so I know what it takes, but I want to have fun with this. I want to be a creator with this as well, you know? So that's kind of how I approached it. I was like, you know what? I'm passionate about it. It's kind of maybe thinking something with comics. Obviously, I was trying to actually do a graphic novel. I still currently am, just a long process. And then when Diamond collapsed and me already in the process of doing a graphic novel, I was like, it's just no question. Got bit by the entrepreneurial bug, and I was like, oh, I'm doing this. It's happening right now. Market
The
timing
time
is
is
great.
now. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So, yep.
Well,
That's
if you got nothing else to showcase or any questions asked me, then I think we're good. I mean,
cool.
I could break this up. There's so many people I know that this could help. It's so that
Sweet.
would be excited to hear about this that I can hype up. So
Awesome.
if you have any links or images or a logo that I can put on the thumbnail or something, send that over to me. Otherwise, I'll
Cool.
catch you later. Thanks a
Cool.
lot for
Cool.
this.
Yeah, I'll send everything over to you. And again, if you're an indie publisher, self-publisher, what have you, please go on the platform. Same for if you're a retailer. Reach out to me at amir@panelfly.io. And I appreciate everything, Max.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Bye.
All right. See ya.